Hitchhikers. You're listening to AHK42.com, The Hitchhiker's Guide to 42. I'm your host, Leah Harrison, and welcome to the show. Today we'll be speaking with Nancy McMoneagle. Prior to her role of Executive Director and President at the Monroe Institute, Nancy, otherwise known as Scooter McMoneagle, provided astrological services out of the Astrological Services Division of Intuitive Intelligence Applications, a company she co-owns and operates with her husband of remote viewing fame, Joseph McMoneagle. In her early career days, Nancy helped Bob Monroe to pioneer and create the Monroe Institute for Consciousness Research and Education. Fasten your seatbelts, folks. We'll be back with you in a bit after this break.
9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff. Space shuttle mission, and it is cleared to tower.
Okay then, hitchhikers, I've got Nancy McMoneagle with us today, and she is the actual president and executive director of the Monroe Institute. Hi Nancy, how are you?
Hello, Leah. I am just fine, and I appreciate your having me on your show.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you on here. This is fascinating, the stuff that you do. For the audience who may not know about you and what the Monroe Institute basically is, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and the Institute?
Oh, sure. Well, basically, the Monroe Institute is a research and educational organization that was started by my stepfather, who was Bob Monroe. And Bob is known for his work in the out-of-body experience area. In fact, his books are classics on the topic, including Journeys Out of the Body. And so years and years ago, people said, oh, would you please put together a program teaching people how to have out-of-body experiences? Right. And so back in 1973, long before you were probably born, Leah, we had the first program at Esalen in California. And then following many, many years, and I was there in the early days helping establish the foundation of the Institute.
Fantastic.
And then over the many years now, we have programs being conducted all over the world, to include even there in the United Kingdom, right where you are.
Wow.
And about 30 different countries. We have something called an outreach program, and people can experience the technology that Bob came up with, which we can get into in a minute if you like.
Yes, please.
But I've had the great fortune of, as I say, being involved with the Institute since the outset. And I took a break for a while. They call it my quote-unquote 23-year vacation, when I had left the Institute back in 1991. And my husband, Joe McMoneagle, and I have our own company, Intuitive Intelligence Applications. And Joe's known as being the premier remote viewer. He was involved with the secret Stargate program of the Army, and has written 4 books on the topic of remote viewing, which is basically being psychic under very strict scientific protocols.
Right.
So for 23 years, he and I were working out of our company, and I'm also an astrologer, so we had an astrology division. So I do people's charts, and also I was setting up what we call targets for him, you know, in case someone was looking for a certain kind of ore or water or sand or rock, or looking for missing people and so forth. He's retired from doing that now, but he does train programs here at the Institute. So I was asked to come back as the president and executive director 3.5 years ago by the board of directors. And as I have told people, it was like a gong went off. I went, time to go back.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm here and enjoying it. And we have all kinds of new programs we're establishing, getting into new research and so forth. Yeah. So That's not exactly a quick answer to you. Sorry about that.
No, it's fantastic. All the details are brilliant because I can't believe I'm actually speaking with you. So I'm really happy, and I'm grateful for your time. And your husband was number 001, wasn't he, of the this program?
That's correct.
All right.
Yep. He was 001.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you helped Bob Monroe create the Institute. Now, what must somebody be interested in or need to have an interest in order to come to your institute? What's the basic things that the Monroe Institute can provide?
Right, I understand. So why would someone come here, basically, I think is what you're asking.
Yeah.
And why people are interested in us here, again, many people, in fact, probably most, besides word of mouth, have heard about us because of Bob's books. Again, starting with Journeys Out of the Body.
Yeah.
Then he wrote a book called Far Journeys, and then Ultimate Journey.
Right.
And this whole idea of you are more than your physical body. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And so people get attracted to us because they want to explore more of who and what they are. They want to make their lives better. Some people come to us because they've lost a loved one. Right. And they're in such grief because, the person's dead, they're no longer physically around. And so since we deal with states of consciousness and teaching people how to get into these expanded states of consciousness, and because we've been around so long, because we are so well respected, people go, oh, I'm going to go there because I know that I can learn what I need to do, and maybe I'll be able to get in contact with so-and-so, whoever may have gone on. I should add here, just so people understand, we are known for, Bob, I should say, also is known for, as is the Institute, the Hemi-Sync technology. And it's an audio technology that Bob started playing with many, many years ago, over 50 years ago. He was interested in sleep learning. And he was also a big guy in radio in New York City. I mean, he was a real grounded person, believe it or not, even though he kept finding himself out of his body, having out-of-body experiences. And so he was using audio technology to help facilitate targeted states of consciousness. For example, let's say you're a very nervous type, you're restless, you're anxious, and just plain need to relax. Yeah. And so there are certain audio patterns, and this is using binaural beats and other combinations of sound to help people get into a much more relaxed state. And he called these various states focus levels. He tries to keep everything away from religion, away from other philosophical structures. So, for example, he said focus 10 would be the state of body asleep, mind awake. Right. And so once you learn how to achieve that state on your own, and again, you would be listening to some recorded exercise with the verbal guidance and the Hemi-Sync technology, and it helps you learn how to get into that state with no drugs, just using your own focus of concentration. Yeah. But then it goes from there into much other areas, like the state of expanded consciousness. So if you want to go into a far greater thing than just simply deep relaxation, Bob called that focus 12. Yeah. And then from there, the state of no time, where you're not bound by time or space matters, he called that focus 15. You see, and it goes on and on from there into the different and higher focus levels.
My goodness.
So when people come to us, why do they come? Well, some people just want to have an out of body, but we don't promise that, I should say right off the bat. But some people are interested in lucid dreaming. Some people are interested in healing. Some people are interested in opening their hearts more, having better relationships. And so it's all about how do you most want to use this thing we call consciousness. Right. And so there are a multitude of programs, and if people go to our website, it's monroeinstitute.org, and and it's Monroe. I know there are a lot of Munros over there and in Scotland.
Yes.
Which actually I think Bob's ancestors hailed from, but Monroe Institute.org, and it explains about all the various programs we offer. And as I say, we do offer these all over the world. I don't know to whom your broadcast here mainly goes, but anybody from wherever can check and see if a program is in their area.
We're going to take a little break, and I bring to you our sponsors.
Become part of the UK Ghost Hunters family, whether as part of a team or as an individual. As part of the UK Ghost Hunters family, you or your team will be able to benefit from the team's vast knowledge of the field and potentially be part of the show Paranormal Excursion. To submit your application, please visit www.uk-ghosthunters.com or our UK Ghost Hunters Facebook page.
Join the Outer Limits magazine at the Freedom Centre, Preston Road, Hull on Saturday the 9th of September 2017, when we shall present a conference titled 70 Years of the Modern UFO Era, featuring the very best in British paranormal investigators, researchers and authors. From Hull, Mike Covell will look back at over 70 years of ufology, highlighting some cases going all the way back to 1801. Bridlington's Paul Sinclair with his lecture on the still developing Wilsthorpe Blue Saucer incident. Following our lunch break, Russ Callahan will present a video reappraisal of the last 70 years of ufology. Associate Outer Limits magazine editor Malcolm Robinson presents UFO hotspots from around the world in this new for 2017 presentation. Our headline speaker is Philip Mantle, the former Director of Investigations for Bufora and a former UK representative of MUFON, presenting a review of his almost 40 years of investigations. Don't miss the never-before-seen film of a possible Roswell UFO incident witness, featuring a former US Deputy Sheriff who claims he witnessed bodies at the site. Tickets are only £10 each and available from the Outer Limits magazine website. You can find the link to this on our Outer Limits magazine Facebook page, or simply email theouterlimitsmag@gmail.com to receive the link. All this for only £10 each. What are you waiting for? Don't miss out. Tell your friends too. Come and be informed.
You see, I researched the Monroe Institute, and it comes up because you've got such good web presence. It comes up with mainly you guys. But I'm unaware of how far that this podcast is going. But I've got a lot of interest. I think we've had last month we had 1,000 hits, which on the actual show. So that they are all separate.
Good for you. That's great.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that. So something must be going okay. But the times that I've actually listened to Bob speaking, he was on about basically he didn't like to call it astral projection, did he? He didn't. He called it out of body, as you said.
Right, it's the same thing. Astral projection was used by I think it was, back in Britain, as a matter of fact, Robert Crickall and others called it astral projection, but that was an old-fashioned term, and he didn't want to do that. So, and in fact, Dr. Charles Tart, I believe is the one who actually came up with the term. He is a very well-known parapsychologist, incredibly excellent researcher here in America, out in California.
Right.
And I believe he came up with it, but in fact, he is the one who helped get Bob's first book published, because he had been working with Bob and kind of studying Bob, actually, in this whole out-of-body phenomenon.
I'm so pleased they did, because if you can go onto YouTube, I mean, I struggle to sleep. We were talking off the air earlier about that my mind just goes 100 miles an hour, so I need to focus in order to numb my thoughts to go to sleep. I've tried binaural beats, and you can select any sort of hertz, as it were, or any. Some people are better at it than others, I must say, because there's a lot of people who are just putting a loop on the internet, so it's not professional. but I've found when I've listened to some of them, my whole body, when I'm relaxed at night time, I'm listening to the binaural beat and my whole body starts to vibrate. And I feel like the bed is actually vibrating. It's really strange. And as soon as that happens, I snap out of it because it's scary. But it isn't really scary, but you think, oh, that's unusual. And so you snap out of it, sort of thing.
Well, Leah, let me tell you, that actually is one of the precursors to having an out-of-body experience, is that sense of this overpowering shaking or energy. A lot of people experience that, and if you just relax with it, in fact, that's how it started with Bob.
Oh, okay.
He thought maybe he had a neurological disorder. He went to doctors, he went everywhere, because he thought he was losing his mind. Remember, he was a very pragmatic, down-to-earth fellow.
Yes.
And so what that you're experiencing is what a lot of people try to get, my dear. So you're ahead of the game.
Oh, that's really good then. I need to learn to relax then and just let it happen.
Yeah, let it happen. It's okay. Nothing's going to happen to you. And in fact, let's say you wanted to check out, go somewhere, find out what's happening over here at the Monroe Institute in Virginia.
Yeah.
And just think about what you want to do. Let's say you'd like to fly up in the sky, be amongst the stars, or let's say you want to fly over to Italy. You haven't been there in a while.
Yeah.
And just imagine what you'd like to do while you're having that feeling. You might be very surprised to find yourself taking a very fun trip.
Oh, I'd love to. I really would. It would make it a lot better than what I have most evenings sitting there trying to sleep.
Yeah, indeed, it would be. Plus the fact you can get some Hemi-Sync downloads from the company that actually sells the downloads, which is at hemi-sync.com. That's SYNC.
Yes.
HEMI-SYNC.com. Yeah. And there are a lot of options depending on, what it is. You want to calm your mind, or would you want to just listen to some lovely, what we call meta music? And meta music is using the Hemi-Sync technology with various composers that have put music behind it.
Oh, nice.
And then there are a ton of applications, everything from weight loss to having extraordinary numinous types of experiences. So
cool.
You may instruct your folks, they may want to check that out as well. That's kind of like a sister company to us. We used to be the same, but then a number of years ago, Bob Monroe separated the two with the Monroe Institute here is a 501c3. That means we're a nonprofit organization, so we can accept donations.
Cool.
And we do the research and educational aspect. And then our sister company, if you will, is a corporation, and they sell CDs and they sell the downloads of the Hemi-Sync. So you may want to give that a try and see if it works for you. It's a lot better, I have to tell you, than any other binaural beat product out there, because everyone else is a follow-on, frankly.
Yes, and I will put a link on your guest page as well. I'll research into these, get the links, and put them on the guest page. So if anybody wants to head over there, they'll find the link conveniently there. If not, then obviously they will make their own path to there. And this is brilliant because it's something I've been looking for a while. And there's certain apps that you can download, and they cost money, and you pay, and then when it doesn't seem to, some of them don't seem to work. So there's a lot of charlatans, as it were. So it's nice to have a professional set of things to use to investigate and try out. So that's brilliant.
Well, we do recommend you use headsets. That's an important component.
Yeah.
I mean, you could listen to it over speakers, but headsets or earbuds is important because of how you're trying to balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain, and because of the way the whole technology works. We also have a technology, another one here at the Institute called SAM, which stands for Spatial Angle Modulation. And it's different from binaural beats in that you're using a single tone. But again, you're kind of moving it through space, as it were. At least that's how it sounds.
Right.
And like Hemi-Sync, it's helping bring about the preferred brainwave states to have the kind of experiences that people are looking for, or to reach the kind of state of consciousness they want. Again, whether it's deep sleep, relaxation, to chill out, to not be anxious. to learn about lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is one of our courses that's very popular, and we have that over there in England too.
Oh,
Matter of fact, there's going to be one. Actually, I believe that's going to be over here. But if you go to our website and you look at England, our Luigi Chambarella is over there giving our, he's what we call a residential trainer. And so he gives our programs over there as well.
Okay, I'm right. I'm making notes. Believe me, I've got Post-its everywhere now. I'm going to be writing all this down on there for everyone else, but especially myself. I'm going to be selfish like that as well. Also, I was going to ask you, could you please define for us then an OBE and an NDE? Because there's one which is an out-of-body experience, and then you've got a near-death experience. Now, the near-death experience sounds absolutely scary. So would you mind, being the professional that I'm speaking with today, would you be able to explain it a little bit?
Well, sure. The out-of-body experience, again, is what I was talking about that Bob was known for, or still is known for. And that is the sense that your consciousness is totally outside, beyond your physical matter being.
Yes.
You know you have a body, it's still there. But what Bob found was, and other people who consciously practice the out-of-body experience, is that they can report what's going on in a place that's far removed from where they are physically. Okay?
Right.
And so it's, and you know when you're doing it, a lot of people say, well, how do I know I'm not dreaming, for example?
Right.
But it's as much as I would say to you right now, Leah, how do you know you're not dreaming as you stand in front of your microphone?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
You see, you know. Yeah. And so I think, you're again, in a situation where you can experience and know what is going on in a place removed from where you are physically.
Right. Okay.
And by the way, we're not just talking about going from there to New York City.
No.
What Bob discovered is then as you start, he said, how many times can you go, let's say, to New York City and not get bored, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so he started exploring other realms of reality, if you will.
Okay.
And that's where we start getting into these other states of consciousness. Again, these higher end focus levels, if you will. For example, one where he calls Focus 27. And Focus 27 is a place where people who have already passed on have gone, their consciousnesses. And so when you learn how to focus and direct your own consciousness, you can go to this, if you will, afterlife area.
Right.
And maybe help people who are there who don't even know they're gone, they're dead.
Right, okay.
You see, and give them help. It's very much a service-oriented place.
Right.
And then it goes beyond that, too. So what Bob started exploring were these other levels of reality, these other states of consciousness, where he would kind of come into other aspects of himself, and it gets a lot more complex from there. I won't go into all that.
No, of course.
Read the books, they're very exciting. But then,
yes.
So that is pretty much, I guess, the explanation, the
yes.
best I can see. So anyway, so now with the near-death experience, and you know, again, there's nothing to be afraid of with that. Near-death experience is, again, you are in this very different state of consciousness. And in fact, my husband has had, I think, several of these by now, given his heart attacks and having been poisoned in Europe and so forth.
Oh.
That again it's like an out of body in that you certainly are not in your body at that point. Right. And the difference is with near death, your body is probably not registering anything. In Joe's case, I think he had been pronounced dead, Joe, my husband. And then what happens is the people come back and go, wow, was that incredible?
Okay.
So when we give our near-death experience programs, by the way, we are not putting people into the near-death state.
No,
I mean, we're not hitting them over the head with a hammer and saying, okay, but allowing them to experience what it feels like in essence.
Right. Okay.
To go into that that state of consciousness where their body is totally, completely unimportant.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Where, and again, I suspect, I haven't had one, but you'll hear from a lot of people about seeing the light. Perhaps you've heard this reported before. They see a tunnel and the light.
Yes.
And all this kind of thing.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
Yes, and they feel that they don't care. They feel love. They have no need or want to come back, and then suddenly they get told, "Well, it's not your time. You've got to come back." Something around the lines of that. Yeah.
Exactly, and so that again is typically experienced with a where all of the bodily systems have shut down.
Right.
But to learn how to reach that state, and again, people run into, shall we say, friends?
Okay, yeah.
They run into people who have experienced, or perhaps are not even in their bodies anymore.
Right, okay.
So
do you think then an OBE, going to that area where you say you can get to that area where people have passed over and it's like a meeting place, do you think that mediums or psychics have that naturally built in then, where they can actually access that area and listen?
Some people, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, very interesting.
Some people can do that, and especially, I would say, especially mediums.
Yeah.
A really good medium does indeed have the ability to contact somebody who's gone on.
Yes.
And in fact, we have a program here called Lifeline. Now, we're not training people to become mediums,
right,
but we do teach them how to get into these other states, as I explained, like the Focus 27 and on, where they can get in touch with those who have moved on. And as I think I mentioned, that a lot of people come to us because, oh, my spouse died and I miss him so much, and or my son died and the grief is so great. Well, when you know that you're more than your physical body, and we don't promise again that you're going to contact your beloved departed one, but
no, of course, yes.
For those who do, it is an extraordinary thing, and it also removes so much fear. It's like, what are you afraid of? You don't stop being.
Yeah.
You see?
Yes.
You do not stop being. So...
I mean, you mentioned that you haven't actually had, was it an OBE or was it an
I've had OBEs. I've done
okay.
remote viewing. I have not had a near-death experience.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Right. I'm with you.
No, yeah, there's a difference. No, I haven't done yet.
Right. Okay. How easy did you find it, Nancy? I mean, it's around you all the time. You're learning a lot more than we do, us outsiders of the Institute. How easy was it to perfect the out-of-body experience for yourself, did you find?
Well, since I grew up with it, and my mother was quite psychic, and so even before Bob Monroe came along, I was brought up knowing that this kind of stuff was normal.
Yes.
You see, that's a big part there. Most people have to unlearn a lot of stuff so that then they're free to explore.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
For example, unlearning that survival of the physical body is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Or unlearning that I have to be right. That makes me good. That makes me the best.
Right.
So unlearning is a large part of this. And so when I was coming along as a kid and teenager and so forth, and I developed my own techniques. Now, here's what's interesting. I would tell you that at this point, I haven't had any deliberate out-of-bodies in quite a while.
Okay.
And it's because, quite frankly, that's not where my focus is. When I are doing my passion as I look into stuff is astrology.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, too, because Bob Monroe was not big on astrology.
Really?
So.
Oh, okay. So he wouldn't be interested.
No, he would not. He would not.
Boring.
And yeah. So, but the near-death experience, again, it's nothing to be afraid of. You know, it's kind of an opportunity. For example, if you decided if you ever wanted to explore it or take a program in it, because, you know, that whole tunnel of light thing, it gives you a chance to explore what is that.
Yeah.
And some people meet their guides, you know, so you might call them your angels or your inner self helper or whatever like that.
Yes.
Some people, you know, you've heard about how some people have a life review before they die. They're getting ready to die and their whole life flashes before them in a single second. Well, you can learn how to access that information as well.
Right, I'm with you.
Yeah, so I mean, it's fascinating what we can do when we open up the possibility, when we learn how to go into these different states of consciousness, where you go inside, you don't have to go outside. So yeah, intuitives and psychics, remote viewers, all these people who have talent in these areas can access this information perhaps more easily than others, but you can learn to do it yourself.
Yes.
And that's the whole idea. Bob was really big on go find out for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't ask us what's true. Go find out for yourself. All we do here is provide the tools and the techniques for people to get into these various states. Then you go use it however you want, you know?
Yes, brilliant. I mean, I envy people who can do it. And, you know, I didn't expect... I expected to be able to just relax when I've been listening to what I had listened to when I did this vibrating thing, so to speak. And it was you definitely have to have noise cancelling earphones and put maybe a towel over your eyes or something. Not your nose, but your eyes. And if you can
isolate your senses, that really does help the process so that your body's not getting in the way. Yeah.
I wonder what it would be like then in like one of those water chambers where, you know, your sensory deprivation...
Yeah, float tank, right.
Float tank, that. I wonder what it would be like in that, you know, especially knowing that you're going to be safe. There's people there checking on you. Just lay there in nothingness and just weightlessness and having all this, the hertz going through that will help your mind relax anyway. I expect that's a phenomenal experience.
Oh, yeah. And here we try to do that. We don't have a float tank here. But we do have our booth, if you will, and we try to isolate all the noise and as much electromagnetic radiation and so forth that we can, so that people can go and experience just by themselves. You know, you're in there, you have a monitor in the control room, and what we call this is our personal resource exploration program, or a prep session. And so the person goes into this isolation booth and puts on the headset, and also we measure what their GSR and so forth. We want to know what they are experiencing in terms of how it's registering. Are they in fact getting relaxed and so forth? And so it's a personalized session, and you get to go and explore and do and be however you want. Most of our recorded exercises are somewhat guided, with the exception of what we call our free flow ones. Right. So this gives you a very intense, very full experience without having the sensory input as much as possible. Yes. Now, eventually, when we expand our lab, which I'd like to do, we will introduce a float tank in here as well.
Oh, wow. That would be amazing. Absolutely amazing. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. And just to get the science out of it as well. I mean, I've seen people, there's some people online. I mean, I look at a lot of stuff. There's some people online, one person in particular, I can't remember his name right now, which is really rude of me, but he likes to go out on the streets and show people how he uses energy. And he's getting quite popular on the social media at the minute, and he's going out and he's making people close their eyes, and he's moving his hand around in a certain area of someone's body, and they can actually feel where he is focusing his energy. So, I mean, it's up to the viewer to read into it how you will, but I found it fascinating. And so what he did a science experiment, and put some, like, the computer was looking at the brain wave activity and such, where it's like a visual image monitor of the activity of the brain when he's doing this. I'll have to send it to you so you can see what I was on about. But
that'd be great.
Yeah. What sort of equipment is? Have you noticed any measurements with the brain activity when they're having such experiences?
In the past we used to use something called the mind mirror, and we haven't used that here in a while, but I'm excited to say we have now, we're just now starting research with a 21 channel EEG, and to see what the effects from the sound patterns are. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a while, but we're looking at volunteers listening to the sounds and just seeing again what kind of effect that they're having. In the meantime, the reason we continue to use the sound even without the hardcore scientific data is because for all these years we've seen it work.
Right, yeah.
People's lives change when they come here. There's something that happens when all of a sudden you lose the fear of dying.
Right.
When you know, not just believe, but when you know you are more than your physical body, your world opens up. When you explore some of these other states, when you find yourself out there with a participant, and we take, here in our center, about 25 people at a time. They come from all over the world. They're all in their own little check units, and a check stands for Controlled Holistic Environmental Chamber.
Right. And
so everybody goes in their own little place, and that's also where you sleep. So it's your bed, and you have your headset, and you have some lighting you can control, and so forth. And some people, when they go out into these other states, find that they are experiencing the same thing as the other person. Have you ever had a shared dream before?
Yes, many a
kind
time.
Of that quality.
Yes, my partner and I, he tends to, maybe he's doing what you guys study. I mean, he can go off in a journey, close his eyes, and he can be flying. He'll go flying somewhere and everything like that. And he has quite a restless sleep and deep dreams that seem real to him. And many a time, because since I've been using my headphones to sleep, which is helping me, and I was listening to binaural beats, and I found a couple that I enjoyed, so I listened to those quite a lot, because I can't find anything that seems to work other than a couple. But soon enough I'll have these ones.
You haven't tried Hemi-Sync yet, have you, Leila?
No, I haven't, and I can't wait. I'm on it later. I'm definitely going and getting these. I need it. I find, because not having a sleep, I've got two children. One is a teenager and the other one is autistic, more Asperger's than anything. So he's up every day, every morning, same hours. If you haven't got much sleep, it's like having a newborn baby. It's up all the time.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you. You don't look like you're old enough to have a teenager.
I know. Everyone says that. It's really kind.
It's true.
Oh, wow. You made my day. My head's going to be so big in a minute, I won't be able to get out of the office. Thank you. That's very kind. So not having any sleep, it really, I'm a night owl anyway. I tend to enjoy the evening more than the morning anyway. So with that on top, anything just to relax is brilliant. And I literally have tried, many things to get to sleep that I could do at home. And so this is fascinating to me.
Well, they've got specific sleep. We used to call them tapes. That's, again, before your time, but...
No, I still remember those.
But, yeah, there are a number of sleep exercises. Right. And if, again, you go to the Hemi-Sync website, and actually, we sell the CDs, but if you prefer downloads, you'll see a number of sleep exercises. Like my favorite was always something called Sound Sleeper.
Sound Sleeper.
But there are others like Sleeping Through the Rain and Super Sleep. Yeah. And Sleep Deeply and Serene Sleep. I mean, there are a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
And so you can go but the Sound Sleeper kind of talks you in, and you got Bob Monroe's voice there. It's very soothing and so forth.
Good.
Okay. So, and then there's some that don't have any verbal aspect on them at all.
Okay.
They just have what we call meta music, like serene sleep.
Right.
And again, those are Hemi-Sync recordings that you can find as a download from their website, or we sell the CDs here as well at the Institute.
So I will definitely go for there. I need to go a bit conspiracy and out there with you, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
If people can be, their emotions and the way that they feel can be changed by different wavelengths of sound, is it possible that it could be used for other things as well? I mean, so some people are putting up, who are not professional at all, they are putting out some binaural beats, and a lot of people in the comments are saying, wow, that was really mean of you to put that one on. It sounded awful. It made me feel awful, and I felt worried and anxious after it. And some people can do that, it seems, online. Anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's some irresponsibility that happens with anything.
Yeah.
And I mean absolutely anything. And in this case, people who don't know what they're doing could either inadvertently or deliberately. I can't imagine someone wanting to deliberately hurt somebody.
Oh, I know.
But anyway, just through ignorance perhaps. But here's the deal with audio. It's kind of like listening to music. I have a hard time listening to heavy metal. It makes my ears hurt.
Yeah.
I take off the headset. Pure and simple. You're listening to something, it makes you antsy, you turn it off.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of people deliberately using it to guide others' behaviors, again, I don't think you're going to do anything you wouldn't normally do.
Right.
This is not like, I'm going to have you, like a deep hypnotic thing. And make you will now go jump off the pier. No, I don't think you're going to find that to be the case.
Right.
And the other part to this too is, and we tell our students here, that's our program participants, once you learn how to get into these various states of consciousness, you don't need the sound anymore.
Wow.
Once you learn how to detune your mind, so to speak. I also have one of those busy minds. And so a lot of it is in the breath, breathing. Pay attention to your breathing, count your breaths.
Right.
And then allow whatever to happen, like all those thoughts in your mind, let them pass like clouds in the sky, and don't resist them, because the old thing, what you resist or what we resist persists, right?
Yes, right. I see. Yes. Yes.
but anyway, you just want to, once you learn the technique, you don't need the audio.
Right.
So I don't, for people to use audio to control others, I rather doubt it.
Okay, cool to know. Well, this also gets me next to, what's your thoughts on hypnosis then? If you have any. Do you, how do you think that, I mean, I watch people, shall I say, go under hypnosis. I've seen some people do it online, and with some professionals showing what it's like and etc. Or you get little glimpses of it, and some people don't even show you the whole lot of it because they don't want to share their knowledge of how they do it, put somebody under hypnosis. What state of consciousness is that? Some people cannot get hypnotized. Is it because they're not relaxing and not willing it to happen? Well,
I think some people. Well, there are some people who are certainly more suggestible than others.
Okay.
And that's for sure. I too have seen hypnosis work quite well, and I've seen it not do a thing. And but I don't think for those where it quote unquote doesn't work, I don't think that means that they cannot get into these other states. I think when they are the ones directing themselves versus someone outside of them doing it, it would make all the difference, you see.
Yes. Okay.
And so what state are they in? That's a good question. It'd be interesting to see, again, get an EEG readout on where somebody is when they're in a hypnotic state. I would guess at the very least a deep alpha, possibly theta state. probably more deep alpha. But yeah, it can be quite effective. I've seen people do effective things. I do not believe that anyone would do something they did not want to do.
Yeah, like when they're on stage and they say, right, you're this, you're that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you may act silly like a chicken, but that might appeal to the silly part of you.
Yeah.
Walking around quacking. But if somebody put a gun in your hand, I don't think you'd shoot anybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Flashes of it. There was an old movie called The Manchurian Candidate, which comes to mind.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
People were trained to do things they would have not normally done.
Yeah, super soldiers.
I've not seen that. I have not seen that take place.
Right. Okay, it's brilliant to know. Also, you're saying you've got your astrological, international astrological practice, where you basically help individuals achieve a greater overview of their lives. So you use your astrological background and your profession for these to help people with these sort of things.
That's correct. Yeah, I've ever since I was a little girl. I mean, my mother took me to a friend of hers who was an astrologer, and I can't remember. I think I was 9 at the time. Right. And I got my first reading, and it excited me so much, even that little girl, that for the rest of my life, whether I was 9 or 11, it was one of those years. And since then, I've just been passionate about it. I find astrology absolutely fascinating. And have done people's charts for, over 30 years now. Yeah. And find it very helpful. It's a helpful framework from which to give someone a different overview of their life. Yeah. And you can look at past, present, future. It doesn't matter. The timing, you can look at whatever kind of time. And I tend to look at it more as a weather forecast instead of being a fatalistic, you are going to meet this tall, handsome stranger who is going to, and who will take over. And I don't do that, but I can say, look, here's an upcoming time where you may want to pay attention. It's a very beneficial time for relationships. It's like a weather forecast, Yeah. It's going to be raining, maybe not the best time to have your picnic.
Yeah. Yes, okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to keep you for too much longer. I just want to ask you about this then. I tend to find, now this might just be me personally, I've not actually looked into it. If there's a full moon or the moon is extremely large, there tends to be a lot more energy around the earth, I feel. I know it sounds really stupid, but I find that if you were to go out on the town with your friends for the evening, there's going to be something really not chaotic, but you can guarantee it's going. Yes.
Well, it's true. There have been some studies that show there are more births that take place. Right. And actually, I do believe the emergency rooms are more full. There's a little bit more craziness. You've heard the word lunatic.
Yeah,
Luna means moon.
Oh, of course. Yes, I never thought of that. Silly me.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, and each month the full moon is usually in the sign opposite. So right now, for example, April is Aries, right?
Right.
We have a full moon coming up on the 11th.
Right.
And it will be in Libra, and Libra is all about relationship. Ooh, and full moons are typically about, think about it, what does a full moon do? It illuminates what's going on.
Right.
And so you have the moon on one side and the sun on the other. Yes. And in astrology, the moon is the feminine and the sun is more the masculine.
Right.
So we're looking at those parts of ourselves, those parts within relationships, and how we project ourselves into the world is very much about the sun, and how we process things and how we feel, how we emote, how we feel secure is the moon.
Yeah.
And so when the moon becomes full, our relationships all come up to be looked at.
Right.
What are we doing in relationship? What do we need? What does our partner need in relationship? What's going on? What might the full moon show? So it's a time of culmination, you see. So when it's true, people do get a little funny.
Yes.
I have to say.
Absolutely, absolutely do. I mean, it's great. I mean, I've looked at the stars, the star charts. Everyone has. They've had their little read about it anyway to find out, what's the astrological chart say for this month and etc. And then you can also find that if you find out your birth date, your sun and moon and planet of your birthday and date, they say you can work out sort of what you're like with numerology, and then also the Chinese year that you were born in, and etc. All, if you wrote it all down, you got quite a good outlook really of your star chart, as it were. It seems to be really quite bang on if you sort of mix them together, all of that information into one thing. It's quite
Well,
shocking.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, please do.
What is important is if you look at the time you were born, that becomes a very important element, because everybody, let's say born on April the 5th is going to be in Aries, right? But if you were born at 2 in the morning versus 2 in the afternoon, there's a whole other shifting of where the planets are located within your chart. And that gives you a whole bunch more information. And since the moon changes rather quickly, the moon may be different for someone born at 2 in the morning than it was at 2 in the afternoon. So you really need to, and there's some free sites where you can plug in your birth date and time and where you were born. That's the other important thing. You need to have your geographic coordinates, just put in the city and state or country. Then when you have that, you have the full picture, and it's very exciting. Obviously, I love this. It's because it gives you a map of yourself. It's kind of like looking at your map. You can't, and where free will comes into play, you decide what roads you're going to go down. You decide which talents you're going to use. You decide, in terms of the issues you're having to deal with, how you can best put what your strengths are. And sometimes people don't even know what their strengths are until they have their chart done, for example.
Precisely.
Put those to work. So it's a wonderful system for helping people get a handle on their lives and to help guide them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was a bit of a sucker for doing that for my kids as well, because they've got, I know exactly what time they were born and etc. Whereas I don't really know exactly what time I was born, because all that information's been lost. But with my kids, I sort of did the Google thing to find out about them and what sort of character I might have in the future to be dealing with.
Well, do you not have a birth certificate? Because typically the time of birth is on your birth certificate.
I'll have to, to get one.
The Bureau of Records or the hospital typically has that recorded, so I imagine you could get a hold of it.
Yeah, I'll research that out actually, because it's something I do need. I've just got these copies which are not as good, but yeah, I'll have to get one. Well, Nancy, your website is the Monroe Institute.org. Is there any?
No, it's just MonroeInstitute.org.
Monroe, that's it.
The is for the other, for us to contact each other. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. And what sort of anything you want to tell anybody about, anything new that you're doing right now with the Institute?
Well, thank you for asking. I would say if people who have an interest in the whole area of consciousness exploration, to come to the site and see the various programs that are offered. We also have outreach trainers, as I said, in like 30 countries, 28 different states in the United States, and they offer weekend programs called excursion programs, which give a good feeling for what we do here for the longer programs, which are 6-night and 5-day programs. So go and look and see, if you're interested in remote viewing, we have those programs. We have out-of-body programs, getting in touch with inner guidance. But our very first program, which is a prerequisite for many of our programs, is called the Gateway Voyage. And that has been our best program, I'd say, in many respects, because that's where people's lives start to change.
Right.
They learn the voyage is, and the gateway is getting into these other gateways for ways of being and doing and understanding.
I'm with you.
And man, I'm telling you, it's life-changing for people.
Yeah. That's something I'll be looking for soon, and especially because you said there's one in England, then it's definitely absolutely going to be worth checking that out and hopefully going there and having a look.
Right. England, and I believe Luigi also offers courses in Scotland. So places that aren't too far from you, and then it's just not that far a leap and a hop over to Western Europe.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I know.
And we have programs going over there in France and Italy, and English too.
Right.
You know, in some of these countries, in Germany, Spain.
Right.
So just I think if people would be aware, maybe pick up Bob's book, Journeys Out of the Body.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the out of body thing, that's a good start.
Right. Okay.
Or listen to some of the Hemi-Sync tapes, CDs or downloads.
Yes.
Yeah, I sound like I'm 100 because I almost am.
No. Do you know, I actually showed my daughter a picture of a tape cassette.
And she said, "What's that?"
Yeah. I was like, well, you put it in this cassette tape, and I actually had an old cassette tape player, you know, one of those cool ones that you could take out with you. And I still had one. She's like, what is this? They just don't know what they're missing.
It'll be an antique before long.
I know, I'm saving them all. I've even got the boxes. I was so good. I was.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but seriously, I think if people knew how much more they were than just this physical, their bodies, and how much more there was to reality than just what they can see, taste, smell, touch, hear. There's so much more to us and who we are.
Yes.
It's exciting. It's enriching. It certainly opens you to talents you never knew you had. So and to more of who you really are.
Yes.
So I'd say check it out. That's what I would say. And again, people are listening to this particular show or any of your shows because you all tend to be a little bit more on the paranormal side, we call it that, or the unusual side. By the way, I never asked what K42 was. I'll have to ask you what that K42 is. But I think your listeners are the prime audience who would be interested in exploring these areas.
Yes. And also to experience pure freedom from the daily grail of life. Sometimes it would just be an extraordinary and fascinating experience just to let go of every daily stuff.
Anxieties, worries, and concerns is exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you would really enjoy it if you had someone that could watch over your children for a week, and you go and just do this as for yourself. I think you'd be extraordinarily amazed at what a difference it would make in terms of the mom you are, in terms of the mate you are, in terms of what you're doing here in the world as an interviewer, doing these shows. Yeah.
Definitely, it's on the cards. It's inviting me already. I want to do it, so I'm off soon to go and work out and find out and research what I need to do. So thank you. I don't want to hold you up any longer. I really appreciate you having the time to come on today and just speak about all this with us, Nancy. It's been fascinating.
You're very welcome, Leah. Thank you for having me.
No, and I hope to. If I manage to get away and do this, I'll update you and let you know how I get on.
Please do. I'd love to know. That would be wonderful.
Thank you.
So I wish you well too, Leah. Thank you very, very much.
No, thank you. And I wish you well with your endeavours and everything that you do as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this show, please go to ahk42.com. You'll find the iTunes link there, YouTube links, Facebook page link. Please subscribe, like or comment. And if you have any suggestions or you'd like to come on the show, then please email me at contact@ahk42@gmail.com. Speak to you soon. Well, that's it for today's show, Hitchhikers. I must say, actually, since this recording, I'm now editing it, I checked out some of these Hemi-Syncs. Now, the Hemi-Sync is this. I checked out the Human Plus, which is H+. It's a means of utilising the immense power of the subconscious to affect change in your life. Now, I found a stream of this and I've been playing it, and I tell you now, I have had the best sleep ever, and only positive things have happened since I've been sleeping with this H+ Hemi-Sync. I suggest you check it out. I'm not just saying this, I mean it. I am all about learning how to sleep, because sleep means everything. I have a terrible thing of being tired in the morning, trying to stay awake in the day because I don't get much sleep. And this has helped me, and I cannot wait to go to the Monroe Institute in the UK to test this out, and I'm looking forward to booking off that 6 nights and 5 days, believe me, and I will update you on that. But that's it for today's show, guys, and I would like to thank Terry Rauch, Jim Choma, Glenn Richardson, Beanie Bypass, Outer Limits Magazine, Phenomena Magazine, UK Ghost Hunters, and Simon, the Amazing Clark. Thank you all, and I bid you good night, or good morning, or good afternoon. See you soon. If you'd like to know what songs I was playing today, it is Nick Turner's Fallen Angel and Galaxy Rise. You can find all of Nick Turner's available music via YouTube or nickturner.com. Find out where he's playing and where to buy his music. I suggest you do. Brilliant.